Hey y'all, it's your girl Naya Angel coming through for the inaugural episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Truth. I have with me my co-host and homies for life, Mr. PAT and E-Man. What's up, y'all?
What's up, Miss Naya?
What's going on?
Yes,
What's going
sir.
on,
Yes,
Ian?
sir. I'm super excited. I think this is going to be some very exciting conversations coming up with us. We got some bangers this first episode here. So let's do it, fellas. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, let's do it.
So,
Let's
first
do it.
subject, Mr. Thomas Brady.
Oh boy.
Oh,
So,
here we go.
Oh
So,
boy.
first
all
of
right.
all, let's please acknowledge this man's seventh ring. Can we start with that, please? Ring number 7. I think
Whoop.
that's important to
Well,
note.
well,
Now I'll
I,
explain the
I I'll
whoopty
tell
whoop.
everyone. I've shared this with a few people, and I've followed Tom Brady since he's been in the league since what 2001. But
Mm-hmm.
and here comes the very shock thing. And I actually watched the Super Bowl. It only took me 7 minutes to know that Tom Brady was going to win his number 7 Super Bowl,
Right.
and the reason why is that Tom Brady, the people who call him the GOAT, has always played the NFL team that's always had the number one offense coming into the Super Bowl. And he's always
Interesting point.
beaten all those teams, except
Interesting.
for the New York Giants, who beat him twice,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and they
Those
didn't have the
weirdos.
number one offense. But I'm
Okay,
just
that's
sharing my
interesting.
little statistic right there.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So that's good to know. I mean, I can't say that I was shocked. Like I said, prior to the actual Super Bowl, I felt it was just a little too soon for people to try to throw Mr. Mahomes into the GOAT conversation, especially for between Tom Brady and Michael Jordan. I was like, what? It's too soon. But at the same time, I think it was a great game. I expected for the Buccaneers to win. I didn't expect for them to, hand them that butt whooping, but entertaining nonetheless. All right, gentlemen. So the question of the day on Mr. Brady is, what are your thoughts about him supporting Trump? I'm going to go ahead and throw that to Mr. PAT to start us off. Thanks, sir.
All right, all right. Well, if you all had noticed, I said whoopty whoop earlier when y'all brought up Tom Brady because well, for those out there who don't know or who are not familiar with me, I'm not a football fan. I'm not big into football, so I'm definitely going to be the most uninformed on this, on that particular topic. I don't
Yes,
know.
sir.
I don't follow like stats or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody needs stats, they're gonna have to go to you and E-Man for that.
Right. We got you, sir.
We
but
got you.
I think what I will do and what I can do is provide perspective in regards to like the more political aspect, like the stuff I guess more outside of the range of just
Sure.
football and playing.
Mm-hmm.
Now in terms of Tom Brady, he said his support for Trump. Um, well, first of all, when I hear about Tom Brady, it's just kind of like I know about his accolades,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, okay. As an outsider, I'm like, why the fuck do I keep hearing about this dude?
Right.
But like, I get it. I get he has fans and people build him up, but people talk about him like he's a god and all this stuff, and I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like his support for Trump, I'm not really surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that I look at the NFL as they're like the right wing of
Right.
sports organizations, while
Mm-hmm.
like the NBA is like the left wing.
It's a good
Um,
perspective.
so when you hear some of these guys coming out and saying certain things, or like they, say they support somebody like Trump, it's not a shocker to me, really. It's just like, okay, well, this white dude over here is supporting Trump. Surprise, surprise.
Right.
Not that all white men's gonna support him, but yeah, some of them I'm just like, yeah, that's no shocker to me. And it is what it is. We know Trump, we know what type of person he is. But yeah, when you hear about certain people supporting him, it just makes you think, damn, this person's views are aligned with Trump, who we all know is a racist.
Right.
And somebody who supports Trump, you sometimes you just gotta look at that person like, you look at them a little funny, like, hold up, we know this person's a racist and XYZ, but you still choose to support him for whatever reason. And I mean, there could be other things outside of, his persona, which I can objectively, see that, I get that, there might be certain policies and certain things that he's behind that maybe other people are behind. But
sure,
just as a person, just, at the end of the day, we're gonna look at people funny when they support, whether it be Trump or Biden or whoever's whoever's leading the country at the time. We're always gonna look at people a certain way, especially if that person, that leader of the country, or that person running for the presidency is counter to what or who we are as a person.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, some very interesting points there. I think one of the most interesting things that you mentioned was, the perspective of the right wing being the NFL and the NBA being the left wing. I feel like there's been this, synonymous association to left and right with the NFL and the NBA because of the actions of the players, right? And we're going to get into Kaepernick a little bit later, but the actions of the players on both sides have had such a huge impact on the public, and that's expected, right? Athletes have been affecting politics since Muhammad Ali, in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
And from my perspective, it feels like Tom Brady is always thinking about the bigger picture, right? He does just enough to give you a glimpse, but not to draw a clear line in the sand on his stance. And the reason I say that is because Tom Brady did an interview, and he was on the Howard Stern show, actually, and Howard asked him about his support of Trump. And Tom's words were that the political support is totally different than the support of a friend. So to me, that says Tom was saying, hey, look, I've known Trump for all these years. We used to play golf together. They've been seen, out a few times socially, playing golf, having a drink here, doing things like that. And, this is a friend. This is someone who was in my life before he was in politics. And at the same time, you can support a friend without necessarily agreeing with their stance. My issue is that, to a certain extent, that's true. But if you have a racist friend and you associate with multiple people who are racist, you are running the risk of being labeled racist yourself.
Right. I agree.
So interesting.
There's an agree and disagree within that nature. And the reason why I'm saying this is because that racism is taught. No matter how you want to picture everything, it's taught. So people groom themselves. So, and just by going how PAT was telling me about, like, how the right wing is the NFL and the left wing is the NBA, that is basically true, because how the NBA stands, towards, if it's Democratic, but then you also know the NFL stands with Republicans.
Mhm.
And I tell everyone like this, everyone's in a pool based upon what is good for them. Rather, rather you like it or not. Because when you look at a business and you look at the NFL and the NBA, they're both nonprofits. Each team owns themselves, you know, but as a collective whole, the whole organization is a nonprofit, you know,
Mhm.
and towards if you look at their benefits, you can tell who watches more NFL stuff and you can tell who watches more NBA stuff, you know. You can tell by, who's more political on one side and who's
Mm-hmm.
non-political on one side.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell everyone like this, they use these schemes to create all these different narratives, you know. And behind these narratives, like, it doesn't help players create their own stand because there's so many NFL players, you don't know who they might know, And like how you guys are saying, Tom Brady knows, Donald Trump, you know. That's fine, that's cool, because we have a bunch of friends that we don't agree with, but you still respect them as friends. So, so the whole thing behind it is the whole respect thing, you know,
Mhm.
because I tell a lot of people is like, I can respect a man if I know who he is versus just having
Mhm.
someone being around
Absolutely.
me who I don't even know, you know?
But could he have possibly not known who Trump was? Is the question for me because yes, albeit we didn't actually, see any evidence of quote unquote racism until that man actually sent out a message to a known racist domestic terrorist group like the Proud Boys on national TV. But his behavior has been questionable way before that. So then it becomes a question of how do you really judge Tom Brady in this particular situation? Because this was not necessarily behavior that Trump ever exuded before. You know what I
So,
mean?
so I get what everyone is saying and I get that aspect of everything. But I tell everyone is when I mean by controlling narratives, you know, so anybody can control a narrative once you have a camera, you know. And I know a lot of people have seen this before, where you see someone record half the truth or like half of what just happened, you know, and then they send it out to the internet and everyone's losing their minds, you know. But then when they get the full picture of everything, you know, everyone looks pretty lost because, someone showed me something that I thought was true, you know, which it was, but they're not giving you the full story.
No,
And
that makes sense. That
Yeah,
makes
it makes
perfect sense.
sense.
this
Mhm.
is what I'm trying to get everyone to wrap around is that this is what's been like really going on because if you can see, and I tell people, if you really pay attention, how information's been given out, it's been coming out so quickly to the point where like, boom, it's out there. Now I see it, you know. Then afterwards, you don't know if it's true or false because it came that quickly, but
Yes,
nobody's
but
checking this.
was there, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I was just going to ask, was there evidence? I mean, like, let's say, a surface video of something prior to those comments that Trump made that you feel gave a clear enough picture that, hey, this man is a blatant racist.
Oh, definitely.
for for
Mm.
for 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 what's out there right now,
Mm-hmm.
yes. But for
Prior to
me,
him running for the presidency.
oh, prior
Yeah,
towards like
because
before he was
remember what we're
president.
talking about is
Oh,
Tom supporting him at the beginning of his run for presidency.
so
I would say
when
yes.
I would say because the thing what I found very interesting that
Mm-hmm.
I'm on like a fix because when he first started running,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get with everything, and I would tell everyone like this is because Donald Trump used to be a Democrat and he used to hang around the same people that,
Mm-hmm.
the same people that, the same people that's out there today. Your Hillary Clintons, you know, your Barack Obamas, you know, Bill Clinton, you name it all, like Joe Biden, like the list can get as long as you want. But you know, he's had sat at the table with them. He's actually given them, he's actually donated money to these people and whatnot, you know.
Right.
So it's kind of hard, you know, to like draw that heavy narrative. Do I say yes or no? And that's what's bothering me, because when he first run, because it didn't, you know, draw like a huge thing to me, you know.
Right.
That's and this is that's why I couldn't get it when he was first running, and I couldn't get everything until I started to do really extensive research. But the funny thing, and I'll tell everyone like this, the funny thing is, right, I had a chance to watch WrestleMania. I think it was 2003, I believe. It was in Madison Square Garden. All right. Donald Trump was sitting in the front row with his son, with a bunch of people and whatnot. You know, and just by just watching and seeing everything, you know, like just looking at the crowd and how everyone's reacting, like it just shows, like, you know, everyone's pretty cool with him. And everyone knows that Vince McMahon, you know, is pretty cool with Donald Trump, because many people don't know this, that, you know, like when, you know, I think was it Caesar Palace, or like I think when Trump had that huge little, I think it was, he had some type of venue and whatnot. And Vince McMahon kept using it for a lot of his wrestling like events and whatnot. So these guys go way, way back, almost close to the mid 90s and whatnot, you know. I
Understood.
think that's how WWE Raw actually started, because they were always, and I just found this out, that they were always live in Madison Square and whatnot. You know? So it's I'm trying to draw all these things, you know, that is he a racist? Is he not a racist? Or in my mind, I'm feeling like, are they trying to get us to picture him as a racist? Because once you start hating somebody, you know, you can get more people along the lines to keep hating one person for no reason, you know?
No, understood.
Well, here's I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, PAT.
So now I was so for the whole Trump a racist thing, and you know, I guess, has there been evidence prior to you know, his presidency of that? Well, yeah, I mean, there are instances, and I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard stuff. I mean, like, for example, the Central Park 5 thing, where he, you know, basically put an ad out in the newspaper to bring back the death penalty. I know a lot of people have brought that up. That, you know, because of course the Central Park 5 thing happened back in '89. But that is, you know, as far as his racism, that's definitely one of the things that will come up. I think I'm looking right here, 1973. So basically, there was evidence found that that he had refused to rent to Black tenants.
Turn your notification downs.
Right, and it basically says that he lied to Black applicants about whether apartments were available. Now the thing is, what some people say to that, you know, what they say to that is, oh, that wasn't actually Donald Trump. That was, you know, his father. And speaking of his father, to my knowledge, was aligned with the Ku Klux Klan. I'm not sure if he was like actually a part of the KKK, but I mean, he had some ties with those folks. I don't know if I think it was his father or grandfather, one of them.
Yeah,
But,
I think I heard that about his dad.
It was his grandfather.
So,
okay.
So when people hear about the you know, the housing discrimination, they you know, they're like, well, as far as his supporters, they would be like, well, that wasn't him. It's like, okay, you know, I'm not gonna really split hairs on whether that was him or his father or mother or whoever, but that's still his company. It's still the Trump brand that did that. So, you know, I throw that in there personally. And there, you know,
that's fair.
Yeah. So, and I'm not gonna run down the list, because I mean, you know, you go on Google, just type in Trump racist, and there's tons of articles that show it, and they have like a list. Like this list right here is from like 1973 up until all the way into his presidency. Well, really up until 2011, and the whole thing with Obama came up, the whole birther thing. So yeah, I mean, when he was questioning his, I guess asking about his birth certificate, that was another thing that people had brought up, because he was basically saying that we need to look into his birth certificate. Well, why Obama? Did you look into the other prior presidents' birth certificates? Did you ask to see their paperwork?
Of course not.
Yeah, of course not. So stuff like that comes up, and so that's what I look to as far as evidence, as far as him being a racist. Because my thing is, I kind of see what Emmett is saying as far as like the media aspect of it, where the media definitely they amplify things.
Sure.
And I always tell people, like, I feel that I'm a very objective person. I'm not gonna just be repeating Trump is a racist because everybody else says it, and that's just like the thing to keep just saying, like, oh well, Donald Trump's a racist. Like, I'm like, I look at the evidence.
Sure.
That's what I do. I'm not just gonna jump on the bandwagon of, oh, Donald Trump's a racist and I need to hate him as extremely as everybody else just because that's what a crowd of people do. I'm like, no, I'm gonna look to see what actually makes him a racist, and then I'll come to that conclusion myself. So that's why I looked, I did the search, and I mean, I did the search years ago, even while he was running and stuff like that, because of course that kept coming up, and that's when I came to the conclusion, like, yeah, this dude's a racist, like he's a white supremacist. So,
but do you think, I have a question that I think is going to allow us to elaborate a little bit further on the Tom Brady angle, because do you think though that from an acquaintance perspective, right? Let's say, and none of us really know the full extent of Tom Brady's relationship with Trump. We only know what either one of them tell us, right?
Right.
But I think about my acquaintances, and I think about the fact that I have many acquaintances who have different businesses, and I'm especially big on supporting Black businesses. So for a lot of my friends, I will share their page, share their share their whatever is their latest advertisement for their business, not think twice about it. I don't necessarily do an extensive amount of research into those friends and their histories. Now, I get it, Trump is a public figure, he's been in the limelight, but at the same time, the media is an institute. Okay. And their entire objective is to keep headlines going at all times.
Yes,
I don't think we're any longer in the days where we could say with confidence, yeah, that news source is 100% telling you the truth at all times. So from the perspective of Tom Brady being Tom Brady and Trump being Trump, do we feel like Tom Brady did not do his due diligence from an understanding Trump's political run standpoint? Because his argument is, his exact words is that the political support is totally different than the support of a friend.
And
so that questions, how much detail, how much research did he do on Trump's political aspects? What do you think, man?
Right. I'll tell you this. Many of them don't do too much of anything like looking into their political thing because they get no benefits from anything they do politically. So like Tom Brady doesn't get a benefit, at all, whether anybody likes it or not,
Absolutely.
So that's why he will say what he says, because the political thing means nothing to him, It means
Mm-hmm.
nothing at all, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why he will support him as a friend, you know. That's
Gotcha.
the whole thing. Now the next concept behind this is when when you look at the media, you know, and the media is an acronym which stands for mobile electronic devices interactive agents.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is so mobile now. So when they get it, and because they're a publication, they have to make sure everything passes before they even push it out. So that's why, you know, how everything circumvents towards is like, you know, the news. So, but the thing that's very interesting is the news or the media per se has not even moved that interview that Tom Brady did with, you know, with like Howard Stern, because everyone know who Howard Stern is, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
everyone
Mm-hmm.
knows, you know, how raunchy his stuff is. But
Mm-hmm.
it's very interesting for Tom Brady to do an interview with him. The NFL didn't talk about it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know. No news talked about it, you know. No one pushed anything that big, you know, because then it's concluding to me that, you know, that Tom Brady has a lot of say and power what he does in the NFL. That's why
There
nobody
were a
would care.
few agencies that talked about not agencies, shows. I think that that topic did definitely come up on First Take and Undisputed, the topic of Tom Brady supporting Donald Trump, and I think that probably was a driver for him to do the Howard Stern interview to clear up some of the misconceptions. Because, you know, again, one thing we know about Tom Brady is that, you know, he wants to make sure that at the end of the day, for the subjects that are important to his teammates, you know, that he draws a clear line in the sand. Because he was asked the specific question of, did your support of Trump divide the locker room? And his response was, no, no, never. My teammates know me. They know who I am. I was with them every day. So I feel like that probably was the driver to him doing the Howard Stern interview. You
In
know
a
what I
way that
mean?
makes sense. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It does make sense. But in I and I'll tell everyone, I stopped watching Undisputed in First Take
Mm-hmm.
because in my eyes, I felt they were too political, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, you know, that they do have the information, but they do take it to a level where it's more comical,
Mm-hmm.
creating more drama, but never answering that. Never, it's not about answering the question, it's
Mm-hmm.
about never giving an answer, you
Hmm.
know?
Mm.
Interesting.
And
Interesting point.
yeah, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I tell everyone, like, I used to watch, like, I used to be, you know, watching USP, like ESPN, like, what I mean, daily, like, daily, you know, always had it on. I always watched it, you know, because, you know, I was that so driven, and, you know, in my profession is around sports, you know, so I definitely
Mm-hmm.
watched a lot. But when I started analyzing what most of them were doing, now it became a conclusion because when they started switching to different topics, I saw how everything kind of switched from one angle to a different angle, from one angle to a different angle. So
Mm-hmm.
then it was telling me that, you know, it seems like certain topics matters, others didn't. And
Sure.
now I'm sitting here like, oh wow. Now I'm kind of getting it that, it seems like, if First Take Undisputed talks about Tom Brady, they'll say what they say, but he definitely gets a pass and whatnot. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
another interesting point. I'll tell everyone this, and I don't know if anybody knows this, but Dante Stallworth used to play for. He used to play with Tom Brady and whatnot. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think when he after that Super Bowl run they had in the one that they lost to the Giants, I think in '08, and then Dante Stallworth signed a contract. I think it was with the Miami Dolphins or with the Browns, but he got into a car accident and whatnot. You know, he got into a car accident, and I think he killed an individual and whatnot.
Mm.
Since then, I've heard First Take and I'm not too sure Undisputed Talk, but I heard they talked about it. And basically they really ran down Dante Stallworth. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but he wasn't a bad person. I mean, in the NFL, he never showed that negativity. I mean, he played with Drew Brees.
Mm-hmm.
So and I didn't see this one, but it took one situation to change him, and everyone's treating him like a very disrespectful, like evil person. You know,
Yeah.
even though he didn't get too much of a slap on the wrist, and he paid a fine. He had a little bit of a jail time, and he took community service. But it seems that if Tom Brady would have done that, or somebody, then then it becomes a mixed thing.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. No, that's fair. I mean, I think at the end of the day, there are definitely clear lines as far as the NFL is concerned about how they approach actions that come from their white players versus actions that come from their black players.
They should
And that's
ask Ben
actually going to be a
Roethlisberger that
great
too.
segue into our next topic, which is
Mhm.
Chad Wheeler. But before we go there, let's give our final thoughts on Tom Brady supporting Trump. I'm gonna kick it back to my man PAT, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, final thoughts. I mean, you guys really gave great depth on I guess the back end stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What I would say in terms of the and I'll try to make this as concise and short as possible, but the whole supporting somebody as a friend, and I
Mm-hmm.
guess just making that separation between friend and political figure. What I would say to that is yeah, you could, it's kind of like the whole like business and like the whole not mixing business with pleasure, or our business isn't personal or whatever. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the two, business and personal, political figure and friend, those things could, in friendship, those things can intertwine very easily, because
Absolutely.
like somebody who's a politician, even though they're running on a certain platform and they could make that separation, like, oh, this is my political views, it's still your personal views that influence your political views. So
Mm-hmm.
on a person, your political stance on stuff still comes from a personal, it's coming from a personal trajectory. um Now with Tom Brady, yeah, he could say Trump is his friend, and he wants to separate him from the political, I guess the political figure Trump. But him knowing that his friend Donald Trump has certain views or certain stances, to me, you're still in a way, you're lining yourself up with his political views.
Mm-hmm.
You're not really, you can say you're making a separation, but Donald Trump's political stance is still his stance. It's still Donald Trump as a person.
Sure.
It's what he put out there. So yeah, he could say that, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, you're still aligned with this cat. So
Mm-hmm.
people are always gonna attach you to him. You can explain it and flip it and bounce it however many times you want to kind of, I guess, um, you know, I guess make a cushion or whatever. But at the end of the day, you're still attached to this particular person that a lot of people were just disgusted by. It's kind of like that whole guilty by association type of thing.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
that's how I look at it. It's just kind of like, okay, yeah, we can make these separations, but at the end of the day, you know who this guy is. Even if let's say you don't agree with every little thing or everything that he says or does or whatever, because we all don't agree with some of the stuff that our friends say and do. Nobody agrees
Sure.
across the board with everything, but
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, like, let's say if I hang out with somebody, let's just say this person is like a big time drug dealer, and you know, he's in and out of jail, this, that, and the third, people are still gonna look at me like, P, why you still hanging with this dude? Like, you're saying that you know, you're not about all that stuff that your friend is about, but you still align yourself with him, you
Sure.
know. So, you know, just to end it off, at the end of the day, people are gonna look at it like, well, you're guilty by association.
Absolutely understandable.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. E-Man, what are your thoughts?
So my final thoughts on this whole situation. Well, the easiest thing to draw up is basically just saying that, you know, like we all got friends, that we hang around with that don't do things that we're associated with. Yet we still choose to be associated with these people,
Mhm.
and this is the case.
Absolutely.
Now, and also to draw another big point on top of this is, since he's taken the stance, supporting and being by Donald Trump's side, I haven't seen really anybody like disrespect Tom Brady that I thought that he would get totally disrespected. You
Mhm.
know, you know. I
Yeah.
thought I'd be hearing some name calling. I thought they'll call him out of his name. You know, I thought people were going to call Tom Brady a racist. You know, I had all these images and imagery like on the many things that I thought they were going to say to Tom Brady, and they didn't. And I'm still finding that still interesting. So I'm gonna just
Mhm.
leave with this final thought is, just to, sum up everything I'm saying is like, you know, it seems nobody cares. And,
Mhm.
and I feel like this is what's leading us, to other difficult issues, you know, not just, him, not towards like, not just because he's Tom Brady, but if it meant so much, I thought people would go after Tom Brady, and no one did it. And
Sure.
and I just want to leave it just as that, you know.
Yeah. No, great points, fellas. So I would say this. I think for me, what it boils down to is Thomas Brady's uh, entire persona and who he has shown himself to be over these 20 plus years he's been in the league is a man of upstanding virtue. Right. Prior to Trump running for presidency, he had teammates that were struggling with abuse and etc. You would hear all these stories about Tom Brady stepped in and said, hey, let me help you with this, or here are some good resources. There's the story out about Tom Brady taking a pay cut so that his fellow teammates can get a pay raise. I think when you have so many years of, for lack of better term, an exemplary set of behaviors that have been exuded, it's really hard. And this is speaking to Emmett's point, you thought you would hear people calling him a racist. It's really hard to say, I'm going to ignore all of his previous behavior because he did this one thing of supporting Trump, especially since he made the comment, I was supporting a friend, not the political aspect. And his exact words were, the political support is totally different than the support of a friend, especially since he also mentioned in that same interview that he was actually very supportive of Hillary Clinton before Trump's run, and really thought that he was going to see her ascend to the presidency. He actually mentioned that in the interview as well. So for me, it's just a matter of, I can't say that guilty by association 100% applies here, only because of his previous behavior. But I think you two raised very good points.